Welcome back to another edition of the Man Cave Classroom, where today we are going to be talking about Franklin Delano Roosevelt and the Supreme Court. And by talking about his relationship with the Supreme Court, we're really referring to his attempt to add six more justices to the Supreme Court. But we'll get to that in a few moments. When it comes to FDR and the Supreme Court and his New Deal programs, I think the best place for us to start is by looking at this cartoon. And we're going to look at a couple of the cartoons here today just to kind of get an idea of what was going on at this time and how popular or unpopular this decision was. But let's first start here. FDR gets into office. First crisis he has to deal with is the banking crisis, as if you recall. He closes all the banks down, will not reopen them until they are able to meet the needs of the depositors. So that was one of the things that FDR did with the banks, is that he brought them all under government control. Now, another thing he winds up doing is that in order to get the country out of the Depression, he proposes a New Deal. Sounds very, very like his cousin's Square Deal, where Theodore Roosevelt wanted to try to provide a square deal for the American people where everybody was going to benefit from it. All right, now we have FDR's New Deal, where he wanted to provide relief for the jobless, recovery of the economy, and reforms to prevent another depression. And of course, these are all come under the three R's: relief, recovery, and reform, if you recall. So when we look at what's going on in this cartoon here, let me go to my pointer. Here is FDR as a doctor who is the patient, the United States, Congress is the nurse, and all of these remedies right over here that his medical bag is referring to, all these remedies are his New Deal programs. This is what he's going to use to help to cure the sick American public. Now, with that, a couple of his New Deal programs, particularly the NRA and the AAA, were found to be unconstitutional. So that's going to bring us to this next document, this political cartoon right here. So we've already provided you with some historical context. FDR is in office. He has these New Deal programs. He has all of them that he wants to help to prevent to help the United States recover from this economic depression. And what does every first-term president want? A second term, which is something we'll get to in a few moments. So looking at this political cartoon, once we understand what's going on in this political cartoon and the three branches of government, we'll be able to break down other cartoons very easily. So let's start here with this cartoon. If we're just taking a quick look here, we see a lot of chaos going on down here. You have a donkey, cloud of smoke, pots being knocked over, birds flying, looks something straight out of a Tom and Jerry cartoon. Here we have FDR leaning on the fence. Seemed very calm, cool, and collective. And, well, what could have possibly created this stir? Let's go to what he's saying up here. All I said was, give me six more justices. Now, I like this cartoon. I was able to find this one, but of course, when this appeared in the newspaper, it didn't look like this, pretty in color. I call this a new school version of it. When it appeared in the newspaper, it probably looked something like this, but I love this one. Who cannot resist this one? So when it comes to breaking this down, moving my attention away from the colors, when it comes to breaking this down, let's try and figure out what's going on here. We have a donkey, you have the president, we have chaos. To understand this, all right, in order to understand this, probably what we would have to do is just go back to basics. And by going back to basics and trying to simplify what's going on in this cartoon so we can understand similar cartoons from this particular instance, we're really going to simplify it. We're going to make it easier for you to understand by breaking this down Barney style. And by Barney style, we want to make it really easy for you to understand. Let's go back to the three branches of government. Remember these? Legislative, executive, judicial. L is for laws, I like to tell people. E is for enforce. J is for judicial. They're going to propose laws or bills. It's going to go through the House. It'll go through the Senate. And hopefully that bill will one day become a law if the president then signs it. And of course, if it gets rejected, it goes back. But that's not what we're talking about today. Then, of course, you have the judicial branch. J is for judge. All right, you're going to interpret these laws. The Supreme Court justices are housed in the Supreme Court. Now, let's get into the checks and balances and how this works. All right. We already looked over here at the legislative branch. These people get elected. So does the president. However, when the president gets elected, he can then appoint cabinet members. When the opportunity presents itself, the president can also appoint Supreme Court justices. Now, with that in mind, Let's go back to the FDR quote. All I said was, give me six more justices. What could that possibly mean if we're looking at the three branches of government? Well, he wants to now add six more Supreme Court justices to the bench. There are nine. He wants to add six more. Now, let's think about this for a moment. Why would he do that? Right? Well, he has all of these New Deal programs, right? A couple of them, the NRA and the AAA, have been declared unconstitutional. Who's going to declare those unconstitutional? The judicial branch. So, if we look at this a little bit deeper, if he wants to add six more Supreme Court justices, let's put it this way: he's going to be the person that is going to appoint these Supreme Court justices. Of course, they have to be approved by the legislative branch and go through that confirmation hearing, and the interview process is one way I like to look at it. But let's go here first. All right. If there are going to be Supreme Court justices that are all of a sudden going to get lifetime jobs, who's going to be the person to pick them? The president. Who do you think the president is going to pick? Probably people who are going to side with his New Deal programs or not get in the way of any of his legislation or his agenda. Now, what's going to make him feel a little bit more bold to want to try this? Well, he just got through a first term as president. Now it's 1937. He's in his second term. All right. He's giving the people hope. People see that he is a very active president in terms of trying to solve the economic depression that the United States is facing. It's not over though. Right. He needs to get the United States out of the depression. So in order to do that, he feels that more New Deal programs are going to be the solution to it. However, if you're going to have the judicial branch that's going to decide that they're unconstitutional, that's going to get in the way of pushing your agenda. So just our little answer sheet here. Okay, we have the Supreme Court justices he's making reference to. There's FDR. Of course, the donkey is really referring to the Democratic Party, of course. Now, when we talk about this cartoon, that should hopefully make it easier for us to understand the other cartoons dealing with this incident. Again, we have FDR as the president. How do we know? Well, it looks like him. But if we don't, there's a little label here for him, the executive branch. Seems like he's a chef now. He's moving out of the doctor's office. He's now in the kitchen as a chef. And he's cooking up something. You have the little pot back here. Now, what does he want in order to kind of cook something up? Power. What could he be possibly cooking up? Solutions or ends to the depression? I don't know. And he wants more of this power so he can do that. Now, if we look here with this cartoon, this is something else that does come up when it comes to the Supreme Court justice and adding six more justices to the bench. This wasn't exactly a popular decision, right? This is also making the president seem like he's trying to get more power. And I don't want to throw out a word here, but one of the things that did come out often with this is that when you're trying to get more power like this, it does seem like you're taking on the role of a dictator. Not a popular idea during the 30s. Here's a little answer key here. So we get the executive branch, FDR, just making sure we didn't miss anything. Let's go on to another one. This one's interesting. Just for fun, let's go from left to right. Let's start with what we know. Sometimes that helps when you're analyzing a political cartoon. If you're kind of unfamiliar with something, you start with what you know and maybe the words, and then hopefully, if you wrap that all together, you put it together, you hopefully are able to draw a concrete conclusion. So, hopefully by now, you know that this is Uncle Sam. Stars, boom, beard, very, very familiar. Who does Uncle Sam represent? The United States government, the United States population. Right now, if I'm going to the right, I see packed court. Yes, yes, all vote yes. If you look down here at these individuals, I guess you can say, that are really not individuals, look at their faces. Not much of an expression, right? Look here. Uncle Sam has an expression. This guy over here, FDR, right, has an expression. You see a nice smile, even a little bit of emotion that you may be conveyed in the eyes. They do not have any expression. Well, let's think. Think back to when you were 4 or 5 years old. What may you have had in your room? And don't lie and say that you didn't have a doll or a bear or some sort of toy or animal or something that was lifelike, like a person that didn't have an expression. That's what you have here. You have puppets. Now, what they are trying to say here, right, with FDR smiling, yes, yes, all vote yes, is that if you look here, all right, FDR is being the ventriloquist here. In other words, these are puppets. They're going to do whatever the puppet master here says, and they're all going to vote yes on some of his his programs. So these would represent the Supreme Court justices that he would possibly, if given the opportunity, to appoint to the Supreme Court. Right? Supreme Court justice, puppets. All right, we got our answer key. All right, so just a quick review. These are some notes that'll be available to you if you want to take a look at it. Right? Roosevelt wants to end this economic crisis. He's hoping by packing the Supreme Court, he's going to be able to do that. This is something that he does in 1937. It was seen as very controversial because it looks like he's trying to increase his power. Big thing here, and hopefully that is something that you may have seen in just a few of these cartoons. Of course, there's more cartoons out there dealing with FDR's attempt to pack the Supreme Court. Congress and people viewed FDR's proposal as an undemocratic power grab. All right. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Man Cave Classroom, also on Instagram. We have a lot of information that goes out there that supplements the curriculum that we're teaching. We have lesson plans like this, or brief videos, or lengthy ones that include lessons. We have them available on our YouTube channel. A lot of the things that we put out there on social media to support curriculum and to support history instruction. Thank you again for watching.